Welcome in, everyone. It's the Super Bowl edition of the Next Game, New Game podcast, getting you ready for Super Bowl 52 on Sunday in Minneapolis at US Bank Stadium. It's the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles, boy, that feels good to say, against the once again AFC champion New England Patriots. We're getting ready to break it down from all angles.
That one's not nearly as fun to say.
That's true.
I'm tired of saying that.
Well, we're going to break it down from all angles and a lot of interesting storylines and statistics, so we'll get to that a little bit later on. But first, we also have a trade to talk about, too. We say hello to Ian Hunter, Alex Kozora rejoining me again this week. Guys, what's going on? Ian, how are you?
I'm staying busy, Matt. Staying out of trouble. That's the important thing to do in life.
Yes, that is exactly the important thing to do. And fresh off his trip to Mobile, Alabama for coverage of the Senior Bowl last week, Alex Kozora joins us. What's up, man?
Hey, Catrillo, are you going to be the one climbing up the poles? The Eagles win?
Yes.
As tempting as that is, I have to decline, and I will not be doing that.
Boost your butt up there. I want to see you climb the poles if they win.
All right, maybe I'll try just for you guys, as long as I have the Crisco, because it's a long way back down. So, well, we will get into the game and all aspects of that in a couple of minutes, but first, we're going to talk about the big trade, which is rare to happen, and this week during the Super Bowl, but because of all the quarterback options that are out there now in free agency and with the draft coming up too, and so many teams quarterback needy, it kind of propelled this to happen right now as you see the trade between the Redskins and the Chiefs go down last night. Last night being Tuesday night, we're recording this on a Wednesday. The Chiefs trade Alex Smith to the Redskins to get quarterback Kendall Fuller and a third-round pick, and then the Redskins also signed Alex Smith to a 4-year extension worth $94 million. So I think the way I look at this, guys, the deal itself, I think, works for both sides. If you're the Redskins, you finally solve your quarterback issues, which obviously, this is a different topic for another day of exactly how they got to that point with the way they've kind of jerked around Kirk Cousins on the franchise tag for the last 2 years. And if you're Kansas City, you get a third-round pick, which is decent. I'd be happy with it. I think if I were a Chiefs fan, I probably would have felt better if I got a second-round pick out of that. But I'm okay with the third-round pick. And you get a guy in Kendall Fuller who can at least compete for a starting quarterback position opposite of Marcus Peters. That's been problematic for the Chiefs on that defense. And a guy in Fuller that obviously needs to show some improvement still, but he's still going to get a chance to compete. He showed what he can do in the slot this year. I believe he's had a couple injury issues too. Didn't have a great rookie season. So I think overall it works, but obviously you got some risks on both sides. So Alex, I'll start with you and your quick thoughts here on this move by Washington and Kansas City.
Well, I think objectively it's a fantastic trade for the Chiefs. They dump Alex Smith so they can go on to Patrick Mahomes. They clear $17 million off the books. They can reinvest that in free agency, which I'm sure that they will. You get Kendall Fuller, you get a pick. There's zero downside to this trade. Of course, you got to hope Mahomes works out, but you got to look at him last year, and I think so far so good. And Smith wasn't in your long-term plans, the way the offense is constructed. For Washington, based on the current situation, it's good in the sense that you had to get a quarterback, and they weren't going to retain Kirk Cousins, but this is all their fault. They had to make this move and give up more than what they probably should have when they could have kept Kirk Cousins a couple of years ago. But they botched that by lowballing, by insulting him with offers that he was not going to take, by dragging him, his name through the mud in the media to try to, get the fan base on their side. And all they did was just turn on Washington because they loathed the ownership there, and they sided with Kirk Cousins. So this is all they're doing. They had to make this trade because of their own fault. There's no reason why Kirk Cousins should not be a Washington Redskin for the next 5-6 years. But because of their own incompetence, yet again, he's on his way out.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that. Boy, that's been. And not only that, too, you lose a guy in Kendall Fuller who, again, I know he's had his struggles, but you're still very thin in the secondary. Now you're even more thin than you were after making this trade, plus you lose a third-round pick. So I definitely hear you there on that one, Alex. Ian, let me go to you now.
I'm going to agree with Alex here. It's a great trade for Kansas City. You move on from Alex Smith. You clear that cap space. You bring in the cornerback, who's a decent player. And listen, if he's nothing more than a solid complement to Marcus Peters, that's okay. That helps that defense tremendously because obviously Darrelle Revis at that point in his career was not that complement. So for Kansas City, it's a great move. For Washington, it's just another Washington-type moment. This is, it's a very are we going to think that Alex Smith is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins, or are they about the same? Either way, you gave up a starting player and a fairly high draft pick for a quarterback that is plus 30 and maybe not any better or maybe a little bit worse than the quarterback you just gave up. So, just another instance of Washington being Washington over the last couple of years.
Yeah, but it's still not. I still think it's a slight upgrade, despite where Alex Smith is at this point. But even so, again, you look at what they gave up, and they could have been all avoided had they found a way to bring in a guy in Kirk Cousins who was pretty much just as capable to do the same thing. These are two very similar quarterbacks. Both can throw on the run. Obviously they're all mobile. They've had some success at least. Alex Smith's probably a little bit more success than Kirk Cousins has, but yeah, it all comes back to full circle of Washington did this to themselves essentially, and that's where we are at this point for both teams. And we'll see if Patrick Mahomes works out for the Chiefs. Definitely a risk on their part, but obviously when you trade up to the number 10 spot for a guy at quarterback, you're obviously going to have to go with them, and they want to do that sooner rather than later. So we'll see how that works out.
But hey, if Washington's in the mood of screwing things up, if I'm the Steelers, I'm going to call them and be like, hey, Josh Norman would look great in our uniform. We have a 5th-round pick. It has your name all over it. It's yours. And see if it works. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, but...
yeah, because I don't think Washington would do that, especially now that they get rid of Fuller. But I see your point.
My point is that Washington rarely has ever made a move where we're like, hey, that was a good move. That was a good job on their part.
Now, real briefly, guys.
They're just one of those franchises.
Oh, my fault there. And real briefly, I'll start with you. Where do you think Kirk Cousins ends up now that he's a full, unrestricted free agent?
Well, it depends on where he wants to chase the money. I feel like both New York and Cleveland, both either the Giants, the Jets, and then Cleveland are going to be suitors for him in his services. And I think Cleveland, with the cap space that they have, they could offer a lot and get him signed with that big time deal. So I think for my money's worth, I'll say Cleveland. What the heck? I'll say Cleveland.
All right, Alex, where do you think Cousins might go here?
I think Cousins has had enough time in unstable and confident front offices, so I don't think Cleveland's going to be the place he wants to go. I think Ian's right about who's going to offer him the most money. He's probably going to be the highest paid player in football whenever he signs a contract, somewhere around $25 million.
I think that will happen.
Per year.
It's just a matter of if or when, I should say.
I think Denver's probably the most likely spot. It's more stable. They've had a more recent history of success. Obviously, a need for quarterback. I'm sure John Elway's going to be able to offer a great pitch to him. I know they might make some moves at receiver, but you still have guys like Thomas and Sanders. Even if one's gone, you don't have the other. You just have more weapons. So I think, Denver's going to be the favorite.
Oh, I agree, Alex. I think Denver's going to be the team that he goes to just because that defense is still somewhat built to win now. They still have to build around him offensively. They just don't. It's not the same as it was when a guy like Peyton Manning was there when they made their Super Bowl run a couple of years ago.
The line for Denver is so bad, though, and I think that might end up being part of his decision. Is that, well, believe it or not, the Cleveland offensive line is significantly better than the Denver offensive line. So, in terms of situations and actually playing the position, front offices aside, and this is bizarre to say because of the recent success, but Cleveland might be in a better position to win with Kirk Cousins as opposed to Denver.
I can't buy that. I'm saying that, given that line about Cleveland a lot, and yeah, maybe for year one it'll be better, but Joe Thomas is about to go either next year or something, and then you got to try to replace him.
It's just a lot of raw talent that still has to be worked out on Cleveland, where I just can't see that. But you're right about Denver; they have their own offensive line issues too, but they're much better suited right now, and obviously, as you mentioned, Alex, much more stable than Cleveland, a team like Cleveland.
We'll see.
But this is going to be really fascinating because you have Cleveland in there. We talked about the Jets. The Giants, I think, is somewhat interesting, Ian, but I think they're going to they're either going to keep Eli Manning or they're going to draft somebody. So I really don't see the Giants in this, but I still don't rule out Jacksonville either. I know they came out and said yesterday their plan is to go into the offseason with Blake Bortles as their quarterback. I'm still not completely buying that. And now that he's out there, I think there's a chance that if you're Jacksonville, you should jump on it. I think if you're Buffalo, you got to find a way to jump in on that too because you have a defense that can win right now. You have a very good running game with LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. You just have to upgrade your receiver spot a little bit more. The Cardinals are in there too. So there's a lot of this is going to be very fascinating where it goes. But when it's all said and done, Alex, I agree. I think he goes to Denver just because John Elway is very aggressive too. You mentioned how he'll probably throw a really good pitch to him, and obviously Denver's got the cap space. I think they're $23 million under the cap if I remember correctly. So I think Denver's there, but I don't rule out Jacksonville either. And I think Buffalo can be a top suitor as well. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And of course, the trade itself is not official until the new league year begins on March 14th. So we'll definitely keep our eyes on that for sure. Now let's get into the game. Super Bowl 52, 6:30 on Sunday between the Eagles and the Patriots. Both teams are officially now beginning their preparations, done with all the media stuff at the beginning of the week. Now it's starting to get serious. And I think this is really what's interesting about this game is just from an overall perspective. The Eagles had to play the last time they were in the Super Bowl 13 years ago. They had to play the Falcons and the Vikings, then the Falcons, and then they played the Patriots, and the Patriots with a win won back-to-back titles and won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. Patriots have a chance to do that this time around. Eagles played the same 2 opponents in the playoffs, just vice versa this time. I just thought that was interesting.
It's kind of fun how that all works out sometimes, huh?
Yeah, I love it. And I think the Eagles, unlike 13 years ago, have a much better chance to win because there's just... I'm kind of going off the limb here, more of a philosophical approach to this than I am X's and O's, though I think on an X's and O's and on paper, I think the Eagles are a better football team than the Patriots are. But there's just something, and you see this with championship teams across sports. It starts in that locker room. And a lot of this is a big credit to head coach Doug Peterson. I've talked about this before over on Pro Football Spot and the way that he set up the culture that the Eagles have right now. And first, going down with the veterans that they have, guys like Malcolm Jenkins, Brent Selleck, Chris Long, etc., and it just goes down the line, just to the young guys like Carson Wentz, etc. And that way it is, that feeling that you have in the locker room, you can just tell that this team is just meant to do something special. And I don't know what it is, but you just kind of feel with this football team that I really do think the Eagles can get this done on Sunday. And when you look at this team on paper, I think it's going to come down to if the Eagles can't have the advantage of quarterback, which clearly they don't, having an all-time great in Brady versus a guy in Foles who's been a backup most of his career. It's going to come down to the trenches, and the Eagles are much better in the trenches right now than I think the Patriots are, and I think the Eagles can get a couple of sacks and get to Brady, which is the formula to beat this Patriots team is to get to Brady early and often, and I think they can do that with what the Patriots have on this offensive line. So let me start there, guys. Alex, I'll start with you, and then we'll kind of see where else you see fit and where some of the matchups lie, wherever you like in this game.
I think you make a good point about Peterson, the culture in the locker room. That's certainly important. We talk about that in Pittsburgh a lot with the Steelers. That's basically Mike Tomlin's best trait that he brings. But, again, when you're playing Bill Belichick, it comes down to the X's and O's and then how you're going to try to out-scheme these guys because the Patriots, without the time to prepare, it's going to have a great game plan. You're going to try to take away your best guys and, and try to exploit what you don't do well and take away what you do well. Of course, you got to get pressure to Brady. I mean, that's obvious, but that's true of any quarterback. Question is, how do you do it? Are you going to send any more blitzes? Can you get there with 4? Ideally, you get there with 4, you drop 7. That's how the Giants beat it twice. But Brady's going to get the ball out quick. It's an offense that's improving. It's a defense that's improved a ton the second half of the year. So that's probably the thing I want to talk about more is the Patriots' defense and how much they've improved because they were terrible at the beginning of the year. That's going to be the biggest, I think, matchup on a bigger scale in this one than anything the Patriots offer.
The one thing I still see in the Achilles heel, Alex, with this Patriots defense is they have not been very good on third down this year, and that's something that the Eagles have excelled in. And they didn't excel at that one in the last couple of weeks, but as the playoffs have gotten back here and the deeper they've gone, the better that they've gotten back at it. And this is still a terrific red zone offense as well. And from a schematic standpoint for the Eagles, the other thing that jumps out to me is you definitely know that the Patriots are going to try to take away the Eagles' run game because the way they've been running this with Foles is get the run game going, then get them in a rhythm through the short pass game to open things up. And while teams have tried to load the box with 8, Jay Ajayi is still averaging a little over 5 yards per carry against an 8-man box, which to me I think is huge and which is a big reason why the Eagles have still been able to have some success in the passing game and get Nick Foles into a rhythm.
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Ajayi's the run game's been a little flighty, but it's had success. They've found it in a lot of different ways, whether that's Blunt, Ajayi, Corey Clement on some third downs and get involved in the passing game. I think the Patriots will have Alan Branch back. I haven't really followed his injury situation. He missed a lot of time, but that's going to help beef up the middle. That's a great point, though. One of the X factors in this game, if you want to get into more specifics, is Patrick Chung, their strong safety. He lives down near the line of scrimmage, opposite of McCourty. That's a great tackler, can man up against the tight ends like Zach Ertz. So that might be one of the X factors. Can he take away the tight ends? Can he play some of the RPOs? There are going to be some quick hitters, over the middle to the tight end, the slot receiver, and can he stop the run game? So that's probably one of the bigger names I'm watching, and this one is Patrick Chung.
I agree, Alex. And the other one I'm looking at, too, and the name we'll bring you in next, is Nelson Agholor versus Eric Rowe. You have two former teammates going at each other. And let's face it, Eric Rowe's had an up-and-down year in the slot. Nelson Agholor, I think, is a better talent. And I think Nelson Agholor is going to have a big game. I think the Eagles are going to try to exploit that because Bill Belichick, I think, is going to focus on taking away the run game and taking away Zach Ertz on the tight ends because, let's face it, those have been, aside from Nelson Agholor and Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz has been a big Achilles or a nice security blanket for Foles. So I think those are going to be his top two priorities. But even so, again, you opens up for talented guys like Jeffrey and Agholor. I still think that could be good, just good enough for the Eagles to beat this Patriots team. But Ian, let me go to you now. What stands out to you the most about this matchup?
Is who do the Eagles have that can stop Rob Gronkowski? I've been going through it, and Malcolm Jenkins, I think, is going to be really good. I think he has the best chance at it. I just don't know, though. I just don't know who stops Gronkowski. He's going to play. I like this Eagles defense, but they don't have the same pieces that could have matched up with Gronk that the Jacksonville defense has. So I just don't know who stops that X factor. And let's not forget, it's Tom Stinkin' Brady. Dude's been to 8 Super Bowls. He's won 5. He was on his way to, he could have a solid chance here to win 6. As much as I like the Eagles and my heart wants me to say go with the Eagles, my brain just tells me I've seen this movie 8 other times. And aside from 2 movies where they really got me, I've seen the same movie. And I think Tom Brady, when it comes into crunch time, second half, it doesn't matter what the score is. You can see it happening. And I think that's going to happen again. I think the Eagles will have a good first half, but no team makes better adjustments at halftime than the Patriots, and Tom Brady is a second-half player. And as great as he can be in the first half, he's just marvelous in the second half. And I'm going to take New England. It's Tom Brady and Gronkowski. Until someone can prove that they can stop those 2 guys, I don't see how you beat New England.
Yeah, obviously you can't deny that. I mean, 28-3 last year just proves that in itself. And with Gronk, I'm curious to see how healthy he will be, if he's going to be fully 100%. He's still in the concussion protocol, but obviously he's there, and I think he looks fine. He was playing video games last night with LeGarrette Blount playing Madden, so I think he's going to play. I think he's going to be a factor. I'm curious to see how the Eagles stop him, too. I think they're going to try to have safety help for the most part. I think that's how Jacksonville played him last time.
You have to. If you don't double Gronkowski, he will tear you apart. Now, I will say something the Eagles, I think the player for the Eagles that has to have probably the biggest game of the entire day is Fletcher Cox. If he can, be the big man in the middle, stop the run, but also get big-time pressure on Brady, that pressure up the middle, help force things to the outside and let the outside pass rusher get home, that's going to be huge. It's the little things in the Super Bowl, especially against the Patriots and Bill Belichick. It takes huge individual performances, not just through one half, but an entire game of nearly perfect football to beat the Patriots. And I want to say Philly has a chance, and I hope I'm so wrong, but I just think New England's going to win. I think they're going to win, maybe not handedly, but I think they put multiple scores on the final board.
Yeah, you're right with Cox and Jernigan in there with getting internal pressure. Go ahead, Alex.
I think the biggest thing the Eagles' defense has to deal with is the empty set. New England's going to run a ton of that. What is the Eagles' check versus handle? Walking linebackers out in space, covering the whole field horizontally. I think that's going to be the biggest issue that the Patriots do better than probably any other team. Defenses always struggle with that. I think for the Patriots, what they're going to have to deal with, and I mentioned it earlier, was some of their RPOs. It was a great stat on Twitter, I forget who had it, that the Eagles have run more run-pass options than any other team in the NFL this year, and the Patriots have faced the fewest number of RPOs of any team in the NFL this year. So, that's going to be the details, little things. I'm sure the Patriots will be prepared for it because it's Bill Belichick, yada, yada, Matt Patricia. But that's what I want to look for is just how do you handle that. Foles' decision making on those RPOs, making quick decisions and good decisions is going to be key. So I think just for the defense, those are the two biggest things I'm looking at. The Eagles versus empty and the Patriots versus the RPOs.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Eagles versus empty, Alex, because one thing that I think probably makes me the most worried is the Eagles linebackers facing that spread offense that the Patriots like to run, especially the hurry up, because not having Jordan Hicks in there, that's been the one Achilles heel about this team, and it's kind of been interchangeable who's been at middle linebacker. At this point, it's been Dannell Ellerbe, but Najee Good started the NFC Championship game because Ellerbe couldn't stay healthy. He had that hamstring injury, so that's the one area I'm really, really concerned about, because you can attack that with Gronk. You can also attack that with a guy like Danny Amendola, too. So I think that's going to be a real big factor in this one as well.
And a running back, James White,
right, out of the backfield, too. No question. Deion Lewis.
The weakness for that Eagles defense is their linebacking core. So you get a back who's acting like a receiver on a linebacker. It's going to be one-on-one. It's going to be tougher to double Gronkowski in those situations, because I think Ian makes a good point. You don't really have one guy to take away Gronk, maybe Malcolm Jenkins, but usually if you don't have the one guy, you got to have a variety of assignments. You got to double, you got to bracket him. But if you do that in empty, you have to declare it. It's harder to take that away. If you do double him, you got four other guys running free in single man coverage. One guy has to win a matchup. Brady's going to find him. So very difficult to defend. You got to be perfect. Your four-man rush, like you guys have been talking about, has to get there. I think Ian made a great point about Fletcher Cox and his importance. But yeah, defending empty against New England, that is a tough challenge.
Yeah, and
it's something to do over 4 quarters too. We've seen teams do it for 3 quarters, but the fatigue factor in the 4th quarter is where New England gets you every time. You can see it in the Jacksonville game. Even though New England was down by double-digit scores, I remember talking to my dad saying, "This game's over." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Brett, it doesn't matter. I'm watching this game right now. This game is over. I don't care New England's down 2 touchdowns. This game is over. New England's already won." And it's just what they do. It's a horror movie that NFL fans have been dealing with year after year, and it's a franchise of movies that will just not go away, despite the fact that we want it to go away. This is the Transformers of the NFL. Please, for the love of God, no more Transformers movies. Same thing with the Patriots in the Super Bowl. We know what's going to happen, guys.
Hey, I just hope it doesn't happen, but I won't be surprised if it does at this point. So before we give our picks, just because you guys have a good hand on the Pittsburgh market, I want to get your perspective on this, because obviously when you look at a typical Pittsburgh fan, I use that typical somewhat and with a grain of salt here.
You mean Yinzer or
I guess, yeah. Let's go with Yinzer. Yeah, let's go with Yinzer, because
okay.
I would say a typical Yinzer, correct me if I'm wrong, hates the Eagles because it's the cross-state rival, even though I don't think there's really much of a rivalry between the two teams because they don't play that often. Or you got the Patriots, who obviously the Steelers hate very much, and if they win, they tie the Steelers for most Super Bowls in NFL history. So who do you root for is the question. Ian, let me go to you.
It's Philadelphia.
Okay.
It's not even a discussion.
See, I agree.
It's not close. Listen, it's cross town. This isn't hockey.
Thank you.
It's not like when the Flyers were in the Stanley Cup Finals and against Marian Hossa, people were conflicted about who to root for. Okay? This is not the Flyers. It's not the Phillies. It's the Eagles. And, Steelers play Eagles every couple years and whatever. No. It's always about you never want Brady and the team to have as many Super Bowls as your whole franchise does. So, yeah, it's the Eagles the whole way.
That's really scary when you put that into perspective. Alex, what's your take on this? Do you agree?
I saw an article that the day of the Super Bowl, or right before it, there's supposed to be an asteroid that passes very close to Earth.
Oh,
so I'm just
God.
hoping that just veers off course into Earth, and that's kind of what I'm rooting for. So I'm literally rooting for the asteroid in this scenario. But for real, I mean, I'm not really rooting for either side. I certainly won't be cheering for either side, but if you made me choose, I would agree with Ian. The Eagles can have their fun for 1 year with a Super Bowl victory. Steeler fans will hopefully in the next 5-10 years be able to still say they've won the most Super Bowls of any team. So for that reason alone, I'll go with the Eagles.
And for me too, right?
No, you're a case against. I almost want to root for New England just to spite you.
Listen, if it was any other team but New England, we would go with the other team other than Philadelphia.
All right, I guess I could deal with that somewhat just because they're playing the Patriots. All right, here we go, guys. Let's make our picks for this. Ian, you kind of gave a little spoiler alert, so I'll let you officially lock it in.
Until someone proves to me that they can beat the Patriots, I know I picked Jacksonville, a couple weeks ago, and
You did, and that was bold.
Well, for 3.5 quarters, I was looking pretty good.
You were.
And then England does what they do. So, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to go with the ending of the movie. We all know is going to happen. We all know the bad guy's going to win. And you know what? As long as you go in with that mindset, it's not so bad. So, yeah, give me the Patriots. I think they win by at least 10 points.
Do you have an actual score?
No.
Okay. Who's your MVP?
Okay, I'll give you a score. All right, 24-14.
Okay. And who's your MVP?
Tom Brady.
Okay. There we go.
Let's make
Alex?
this easy, guys.
Lock it in.
Locked in. Am I up now?
Here you go. You're up.
Okay. I think the Eagles have a chance. I don't want to say there's no chance at all. I've been proven wrong. I didn't think Nick Foles could get them to this point. He played the game of his life against the Vikings. You got to give him credit. Again, the Eagles have an identity. They know how to win defensively. They know how to win offensively, generally speaking. They have a lot of different, guys that can contribute. It's not about just one guy where Belichick could take that one player away and the Eagles would be screwed. Still, having said all that, like Ian said, I'm taking the Patriots because you just don't bet against them when it's Tom Brady versus Nick Foles, when it's Belichick versus Peterson, the experience of the Patriots, the newness of the situation for Philadelphia. I'll go 27-16 Patriots, and the MVP. It's a good question. I'll say the other easy answer. I'll say Gronk. It's the MVP.
Gronk. Okay. All right. Which would be formidable if they win. Well, you can call me a homer all you want, but I'm taking the Eagles. But legitimate reasons, though.
I'd be mad at you if you didn't.
Well, legit, because I've thought long and hard about this, but I mentioned the philosophical factor in this. You take that for what it's worth. But when I just look at this team on paper, I just think the Eagles are still going to be able. It's not going to be pretty. They're not going to get big chunks of yards at a time. But I still think they're going to be able to run the football well enough to keep moving the chains, to at least get chunks of yards down the field, open up some realms of the passing game. I don't think lots of options to the tight ends are going to be there. I think it's going to go through a lot of Nelson Aguilar and a lot of Alshon Jeffrey on the outside, and I think that some of the Eagles can exploit a little bit. And I think just simply moving the chains is going to be something that a win on each drive for the Eagles, whether they get points or not, because the longer you keep Tom Brady off the field, the better. And I think it's going to be just enough. It's going to be a very close game, back and forth. And I'm going to take the Eagles 26-23 to finally bring home a Lombardi trophy for the Eagles. 26-23 Eagles. I think they're going to do just enough. And as the defense has proven all year, when they need to make a stop late, I think they're going to somehow find a way to do it against Tom Brady and everything that we've talked about that brings to them offensively. So I'm taking the Eagles 26-23.
God, I hope you're right.
Me too. We'll see how things go. It's going to be a great game. Should be a fun weekend. Certainly looking forward to it. And we thank you for listening to the podcast all season long. We will be back next week. Alex and I will be back next week to break it down, whatever happens. And then we will discuss our plans for the offseason here on the show. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at NG_NFL. We're at Next Game, New Game podcast on YouTube as well. Alex is on Twitter at Alex_Kazora. Ian is on Twitter at B104_Hunter. And I am on Twitter at MContrillo. I also have some reaction and some analysis and thoughts on ProFootballSpot.com for the Super Bowl as well, a day or two after, depending on what I'll be able to do on game day. I'm hosting some family for the game as well, so I'm hoping to get something up before the game, if not, or after the game rather. If not, it'll be in the next day or two. So guys, we'll be talking. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody.
Yep, good luck.
Yeah, you enjoy more than all of us. How about that?
I've been enjoying it each and every part of this week. I will definitely soak it all in on Sunday, regardless of the outcome. So for Alex Kazora and for Ian Hunter, I'm Matt Contrillo. Enjoy Super Bowl 52. This has been the Next Game, New Game podcast.